Hi, I'm Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co founder of the She Angels Foundation. I'm also the podcast host of Invest in Her and an award winning producer, author, and TEDx speaker. Our show, Invest in Her, features phenomenal female founders and funders. As you know, women receive less than 2% of venture capital funding. Our series is about accelerating the funding of women by connecting them to funding resources. Let's meet today's guest. Welcome to this week's episode of Invest in Her. I'm your host, Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation, also the executive producer of Show Her the Money movie, and the general partner on Silicon Valley Women Founders Fund, investing in women in tech. Speaking of investing in women in tech, we have an amazing guest today who is an investor in climate tech and help other people to do the same. So let's bring to today's show, Helena Wasserman. Hi, Helena. How are you?
Hi, Catherine. I'm well. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you. Well, I'm so impressed with you. You are known as a powerhouse in the climate tech investing space, driving millions to women founders in that tech space. So let's talk about that. Women that are actually shaping the planet's future. So important. And you've actually created a global network of 400 people that are investors in climate change. I love that. First, I want to know, what is your background? How did you get into the climate tech space? Where did this all begin?
Absolutely. Most happy to share. So Catherine, thank you for having me, first of all. And so I'll give you a quick, 1 minute summary of how I got here, and then we can double down on whatever is most interesting and relevant for this audience. So I'm half Swiss, half Italian, grew up in Switzerland, and I actually started my career in New York City at the Clinton Foundation. So I was working in former President Clinton's office. Back then I was 21, very junior. I obviously, being quite junior at the time, I learned a lot by observing how things were done. And I, learned from some of the best people at fundraising on how to get money, how to show up, how to dress, how to present. And I think that was very formative. I then worked for Techstars, the accelerator. That came my fascination for the 0 to 1 phase of company, which is where we invest nowadays. So really the startup phase, pre-seed to Series A. And then, 2020 happened, and it was actually the Australian bushfires, which was kind of like the LA fires a few months ago for Americans and the world. And so for me, that was a wake-up call. And I decided, I'm going to take all the great skills that I learned, and I want to learn how to be an investor. And I want to focus on moving capital into climate. So that was, almost 5 years ago. Since then, we launched 2 organizations that help us do exactly that. And it's been a big learning journey, but one that has been, very interesting, very meaningful. Obviously not easy, but I always say it's not meant to be easy. Whatever is important and meaningful isn't easy. And so we have 2 organizations today. One is Investors for Climate that you mentioned, which I have a brilliant co-founder with, called Christina Molevar, who's based out of Singapore. I'm here in New York. It's a big network of 400 climate investors. And then we have also a founder program called Unstoppable, where we help founders with fundraising.
I love that you're helping both sides, helping investors find climate tech to invest in and helping those founders to get the funding. So important to connect the two. So what made you decide? So all of these things that you did, from the Clinton Foundation to the bushfires, brought you to where you are today. I always say, whatever it is our purpose is on the planet, we usually tend to, throughout our life, do different things that end up bringing us, like it's like a puzzle, bringing us to what we're actually meant to be doing. And all of those things help us with the final thing that we're supposed to be doing, right? And that's what it sounds like for you. What was it like working for the Clinton Foundation? That had to be an amazing opportunity.
Yes, I have a few fun stories from those days.
I bet you
So, I started as an intern, and as an intern, you get to have what they call informative interviews, where you get to, meet with people from the foundation, and they give you some of their time to give you advice, right? Career advice. And so I met with the chief of staff, who I'm not going to name, and I asked her, what can I do better? How can I be better at fundraising? How can I be better in my career? Like, what do you recommend? And she looked at me and she said, well, first of all, if I were you, I would tone it down.
oh my gosh.
And so I was like, okay. Obviously, as you can imagine, I did not take that advice into consideration. But I did learn, a lot from the foundation in terms of how people present themselves, how people talk about impact. The foundation somewhat also managed a little bit like a fundraising political campaign, right? Due to its heritage. So I think it was extremely formative. I remember one of the advice they gave me, which was an advice I did take into consideration. They said, once you're done here, make sure you do one thing. And we're like, one thing? Like, what's the one thing that we can do? Say, make sure that you learn how to sell, because that will go a long way no matter what career path you pick. And I
Right.
took that very, very seriously. And right after that, I took on a sales job.
And I do think selling is important, but I mean, I've had people say to me, "Oh, you could sell anything." I said, "No, I couldn't. I have to really, really believe in what I'm talking about." And I feel that from you too. Like you can sell on the idea of investing in climate tech because it means so much to you, right?
Well, I mean, I think you're pretty on point. Actually, my career only took off when I started selling what I believed in.
100%.
So
100%.
I had, sales job where I was selling products I didn't believe in. I never became as successful as I am today. And it's only when I figured out how to, really sell and do what I really care about that success really came.
Yeah. And I don't like that word selling. I think what people are doing is really attracting like-minded people to things that make a difference and asking them to participate in that, rather financially or with their time. And I just think it should be framed up a little differently, but that's just, what I think. Um, so you've created a global network of 400 climate investors in 25 cities. That's really impressive. How did you build that out?
Yeah, absolutely happy to share. So my co-founder and I, Christine, we basically, we both had the same profile. We're both super connectors. So we had a lot of these relationships to start with. So I want to say that. We were in the industry for a while, so we knew, some of these people already. So we did have like an unfair advantage. But the way we built it is very simple, actually. So we elected ambassadors, city ambassadors that are investors themselves in these 25 cities. We're going to be in 40 cities by Christmas, 34 by next month. And this model has emerged as one that I had tested before in other organizations. And it's a great model because it creates a win-win for, local ambassadors and the global community. And so that allows us to scale quite fast without having, 25 people on payroll, but finding people that are really, they're like leadership opportunities for local investors, whether they're family offices, VCs, or angels that want to benefit from the network. So that's how we were able to grow fast by word of mouth and by empowering these local investor leaders in the 25 cities.
Love that. Love that. So, you have a program called Unstoppable. Um, First of all, how do investors join your network? Let me ask that first.
Absolutely. So investors, it's a very simple process. Just need to apply on our website. And then investors get invited, whether you're a family office, a VC, or an angel, you get invited for an interview. We make sure that you're actually deploying in sustainability because that has created some frictions in the past. And if you're successful in the interview, we invite you to join the community. take part in our programming, investment opportunities, spotlighting your portfolio. We also have speaking opportunities, so there's a lot that we support our members with.
And what is that website that they would apply at?
Oh, it's investorsforclimate.com.
Investorsforclimate.com. Just like says it like it is.
That's it.
I
And
love it.
there's a lot of discussion right now in the US with like rebranding anything climate related, as you'd imagine. And so we had this discussion, because obviously we have climate in our company name, right? Which in the current Trump administration is not the most popular, I'd say, popular word right now, right? But we decided against rebranding. We decided, no, we're actually going to make a point and go bigger and highlight climate even more than before.
I love that. And tell me about the Unstoppable program that equips early stage founders with raising capital. How do you do that? And how do they join that?
Absolutely. So obviously, we're connected to capital. That's our unfair advantage, right? But we also get contacted by so many exceptional founders that are early stage and that are brilliant, but may not have the networks. Family office networks are very hard to get into unless you're a family office yourself. And so basically, Unstoppable is a program that relies on three pillars. The first one is positioning, storytelling. So it's really positioning the company for the current market. So that's really marketing. The second one is fundraising. So training them to become good at fundraising from a skill set perspective, and then giving them access to our investor network through the events that I mentioned earlier. So that's why they work hand in hand. And then the final pillar is actually peer-to-peer learning. So, they're all early stage founders, exactly the same stage. One of them, for example, is an Earthshot Prize winner, who's Prince William's Environmental Foundation. So he won the Earthshot Prize back in 2023. And so, for example, he's helping current founders in the program how to fill out the application, know who to speak to, etc. So yes, so that's how the program relies on these three pillars. So positioning, fundraising, events, and peer-to-peer learning.
I love that. So anybody that has a climate tech innovation can join the group. That's amazing that you give them that support. I love that. The Unstoppable program, and that's on the same site, Investors in Climate.
So that's actually a different website. It's called
Oh,
Unstoppable Accelerator. And we do ask to have a woman, not necessarily in the founding team, because that's not always the case. But we ask to have a woman within the management team,
oh, I
which,
love that.
which allows, to have
And
women
what is
in the
that
leadership.
website again?
So it's www.unstoppableaccelerator.com.
Unstoppable Accelerator. And that's for those with climate tech innovations that need the support of helping fundraise.
Exactly. And it's specifically pre-seed and seed startups, so really early stage.
Great. That is amazing. It's so necessary. And we know it's so important to have a woman in the mix just because dual gender entities tend to be more successful than, all one gender. And so that's great that you're doing that it's inclusive of women. I like that. Um, you have a social following of about 20,000 between your LinkedIn and your Instagram. So if people want to find out about these programs, they can follow you on those social media, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Content is definitely a big part of, how people hear about us. So yeah, LinkedIn or Instagram is the best way to find us.
Great. Or your websites,
Yes.
right? So you have 11 startups in your portfolio. Tell me about how you decide who to invest in and who did you invest in? Maybe can you share one of them with us?
Absolutely. With pleasure. So obviously, I am a self-taught investor, right?
Most
I
people
everything
are, I think.
that's correct, actually. In the sense that, I found out that you could be an angel investor by investing as little as, $500, $1,000. I didn't even know that. I thought, initially that you needed millions to invest. And
Yeah,
so
I
that's,
think that is a big fallacy that people buy into and don't realize how accessible it is.
exactly, which is
Yeah.
also why we also have an angel program today. to help people learn how to get started. And I think for me, obviously when you invest so early stage, it's a lot about the founder. So, we really bet on exceptional founders, ideally founders that have exited businesses before, but that's not always possible. But that's a good indicator. So it's really about the person and their execution ability, right? As you know, being an investor yourself, a lot of you have great ideas, but it really boils down to execution. So one story is I'm invested into a brilliant founder called Eric. He founded SoundCloud back in the day, music streaming company that I'm sure you know, and now he founded a few years ago a company called Dance, which is basically a mobility startup. So they have, electric bicycles in cities like Paris, Berlin, London. And he's an example of an absolutely exceptional founder. So that's one that I invested as an angel. And then I followed on in the recent round. They actually went through a crazy story where they actually bought back the company from several of their investors. So now, they own more of the company and kept only a few investors on board. So it's been a journey, following their success, the ups and downs. I mean, building companies is not for the faint-hearted, as I'm sure you'd agree.
Exactly. But so exciting. And I feel like when you step into that arena of angel investing or venture capital, you're really meeting the most brilliant people on the planet, both the innovators and then the successful people that are actually investing in those innovators. So everybody should try it out. Alternative investments are the new hot button for everybody in the investment world. And you and I are out there evangelizing for them to try to step into this arena and be part of deciding with your money what are the products and services of the future. You get to have a say so in that. And I always say by the time they reach the public market, they've already seen their profits. The real profits are made early stage, getting in on the ground floor. And I just love what you're doing. Especially because you're in a niche that is just so important to the future of the planet. So thank you for that work. Really appreciate it. People should go to investorsinclimate.com if they want to learn about investing in climate tech. And then also, you're a founder with a great innovation in this arena. You should go to, remind me again,
Unstoppableaccelerator.com.
unstoppableaccelerator.com. Wonderful work that you're doing. Thank you so much for coming on and telling us about it. I always like the show to be a great resource for women and for everyone. So thank you for the work you're doing. It's so important to our future. And I hope people will look up Helena Wasserman on LinkedIn as well as going to their sites. You can find me, of course, too, Catherine Gray on LinkedIn. We also have a couple of websites, which is sheangelinvestors.com. We have our movie at showherthemoneymovie.com. And then we have our fund, which is Silicon Valley Women Founders Fund.vc. And we are investing in women in tech, including in climate tech. So we're happy to say that. Helena, thank you so much. Appreciate the great interview. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. Make it a great week. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine. And hats off to you for everything that you're pushing forward. And I love the media and showbiz angle as well. I think it's so crucial to get more people to learn about this. So thank you so much for having me and for the work you do.
Thank you, Helena. All right, make it a great week, everybody.